East Lansing, Michigan, October 20, Devin Bush. Photo by Gregory Shamus, Getty Images. If you ask me, I don't think the Washington Redskins should draft an inside linebacker in round 1 of the 2019 NFL Draft. If Reuben Foster can play even 14 games in 2019, he's an upgrade from what they had last season, and 2018 6th-round pick Sean Hamilton has starting upside if he can stay healthy. But, as is always the case in draft season, if you're going to be against something, you need to know exactly what you're against. For reasons of overall value, I don't think the Redskins should draft an inside linebacker in round 1. But it's a preference that could admittedly come back to haunt teams come draft day. Just like Devin Bush haunts opposing offenses. Want your voice heard? Join the Rigos Rag team. Write for us. If the Redskins choose to settle for what they have at the inside linebacker position, and bypass the position in round 1, they could open the door for a very solid BPA pick at No. 15. But if Devin Bush is on the board, they could also risk taking a top talent off their draft board. With a few weeks left to play out before the NFL Draft, all options are still on the table. So for that reason, we're talking about Devin Bush. Because he deserves the conversation. Page 2 MADISONY, in November 18, Devin Bush. Photo by Stacey Revere, Getty Images. You know my support for Devin Bush is genuine. After all, I'm a Michigan State fan. I wouldn't say these things about a Wolverine unless I felt obligated to tell the truth. Which I do. The truth is Devin Bush is quite the player. He offers an enticing skill set, and while there are a few limitations to his game, he's ultimately a reliable pro prospect with reasonably high upside as an early to mid-first rounder. Pro Bowls and All-Pro bids could be in his future, as long as he continues to build on his best qualities. The staple of Bush's game? Speed. Bush has a turbo button that very few linebackers have. He shifts gears and accelerates very quickly, and his top speed, quantified by a 40-yard dash time in the low 4.4s, allows him to make plays from sideline to sideline. Bush's speed is an asset, and he uses it for everything he does. It makes him an effective QB spy, and his range is impressive when covering out routes and flat routes. He can stay with receivers step for step. He has the closing burst to neutralize gaps in pursuit. He's a homing missile when covering screens. And you'd better not leave him unblocked on the blitz, as he can sneak and sear through seams in the offensive line with ease. Simply put, Bush can cover a lot of ground very quickly, in any context. More from Rigos Rag. Bush's speed is a utility that will serve him very well at the next level, but it isn't his only good trait. Just as he is fast in coverage, from a physical standpoint, he's also a fast processor mentally as well. He has the awareness to know when to disengage the gaps and sprint to the edge in run defense, and while some can be reckless with their speed, Bush rarely overcommits when he doesn't have to. He stays calm when a play goes off script. While some defenders can get caught up in the chaos, Bush remains unfazed. In coverage, Bush isn't just fast, he's nimble. He's light on his feet, despite his stocky build, and he has the change of direction speed to clamp down on fast-developing short routes. His solid route recognition allows him to quickly process developing weak spots for him to supplement. Bush is also quite vocal as the team's middle linebacker, pointing out areas of importance to his teammates on the fly. Bush isn't perfect in coverage, he can be a bit late to snap his attention from the quarterback's eyes to the intended receiver, and he can get tied up on underneath routes, thus falling behind with his recovery. But he has the skills to be very good in this area, and he's already well on his way. In run defense, Bush is still solid, but his limitations show a bit more. He packs a punch when engaging blockers, and he gives 100% in trench warfare. That said, Bush isn't very refined at the line, not necessarily to be expected from an inside linebacker, and his smallish frame can be overwhelmed by larger blockers. He can take a bit too long to shed blocks, and with his lack of length and surefire power, he's not consistently imposing. This causes occasional hesitance at the point of attack. Does show flashes of definite strength, but he has a harder time converting it to on-field power on a consistent basis. Bush also upholds adequacy, but not quite excellence as a tackler. He's certainly not afraid to impose himself, he's very physical with his finishes as a tackler. But Bush can sometimes be indecisive with his pursuit angles. He generally knows how to close the gap quickly, but his lack of length can limit him at times, forcing him to jump the gun with his tackling motion, thus sacrificing leverage. Despite inevitable warts, however, Bush is a fairly solid prospect. As explained earlier, he's a high-floor linebacker with the upside to be a tone-setting player for years to come. Speed is something that can't be taught, and at positions where speed isn't necessarily a given, such as linebacker, having that quality alone can separate a player. Bush has speed, and he has a lot of other stuff to go along with it. Tape watch a Devin Bush vs. Notre Dame 2018, Devin Bush vs. Penn State 2018, Devin Bush vs. Michigan State 2018, Devin Bush vs. Nebraska 2018. Next, how Bush fits the Redskins. Page 3 NASHVILLE, December 22, Darius Jennings. Photo by Frederick Breeden. Getty Images. How Devin Bush fits the Redskins depends on how you see their inside linebacker situation in 2019. Let's say you think Reuben Foster is due for a suspension from the NFL, and even then, he's not a sure thing as a starter. Let's say you can't bear to think about Mason Foster starting another year, and you don't view Shondion Hamilton as anything more than a backup. If that's what you think, then Bush is the missing piece in the Redskins' defense. Speed was so clearly lacking last year, and not just speed, but responsible speed. Bush would bring responsible speed to the Redskins, and behind the team's stalwart defensive line, he could have a big impact. But what if you're not as low on the team's linebacker situation? What if you think Reuben Foster will turn a new leaf in DC? What if you liked what you saw from Shondion Hamilton in limited action in 2018? What if you'd rather take the best player available at No. 15, and settle with cheaper assets, than perform what might be a reach for Devin White, depending on who's available? White is a great prospect, but the Redskins have players who can be solutions, without the addition of a first-round pick at their position. Shondion Hamilton was regarded as a potential starter by some in the lead-up to the 2018 NFL Draft. The biggest concerns surrounding him pertain to his health, and he wasn't bothered by that at all in his rookie season. If Foster and Deon Hamilton can form a formidable duo for next to nothing, in terms of cost, then is using a first-round pick on Bush necessary, considering the wide-ranging needs of the team? Next, should the Redskins draft Devin Bush? Page 4 ARLINGTON-TX, April 26. A video board displays the text, "On the clock," for the Washington Redskins during the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. Edit. Photo by Tom Pennington. Getty Images. Devin Bush is, at the very least, a top 30 prospect, and he falls inside my top 15 after my evaluation of his film. But if the Redskins were to draft Bush, they'd have to think two things. They'd have to consider linebacker in need, and they'd have to see Bush as one of the best available players. Bush could be the best available player at No. 15. It's possible, just like everything else during draft season. But it's not necessarily likely. A quarterback run before pick No. 15 could very well push top prospects such as Brian Burns, DK Metcalf, or even Jonah Williams down the board, and if either of those players are available at the Redskins pick, the choice would be an easy one. And it wouldn't be Devin Bush. How the Redskins value Bush ultimately depends on how imperative they view speed as an attribute of their defense. After watching their lack of speed contribute to their defense's downfall in 2018, the Redskins have to think that it's important. but they might see Reuben Foster and Shondion Hamilton as players who can provide adequate speed, for far less, in terms of cost. Next, NFL Mock 5.0, Redskins trade back, acquire talent in a vacuum. Devin Bush is worth the no. 15 pick. His speed and acceleration constitute rare thresholds, and he's a smart player trending up as he heads into the NFL. But in a league where anything can happen, the Redskins can't box themselves in at no. 15.